Okay, everyone should be able to record now. And we'll share my screen. Oh, before I start, I just want to mention a couple things that I found yesterday that were really interesting. So I was digging into my system a little bit, trying to figure out why things were so slow. For example, Jen, yesterday when we went over your assignment together, I did an npm install, and it took 8.5 minutes to install all of the dependencies for the application to run. And I was like dumbfounded about why this would take so long. So I talked to Zach, because Zach marked a lot of assignments, and he said, oh, no, it takes like 30 seconds for me. And I said, what's going on? Windows Defender slows down the installation of node packages by at least 50%. So if you're on Windows and you find that you're installing and you're doing a lot of npm install, it might be worth it to turn off real-time protection before you go ahead and do an npm install. It can save you lots of time, like minutes off of every create React app. Every time you do a create React app, every time you do an npm install, turning off real-time protection temporarily, okay? Because every time it's checking all the new files that are run on your system. So npm install creates a bunch of new files, and this is checking all of them, right, as they're created, which slows down the whole thing. So that's something interesting that I found yesterday. The other really interesting thing was I posted something in Discord. I'm sorry, I was thinking of you when I posted it. I don't know if you guys saw it. It is called, I think it's called React Nano React. It's taking a while too. Nano React app. So Discord's really slow. Nano React app, and it's a replacement for Create React app. It's not a replacement. It's essentially a way smaller version that is super basic. It doesn't have all this extra stuff that I need to remove every time. It's a little bit different, but way actually easier. It takes about 20 seconds to install instead of 2, 3, 4 minutes. And it starts up really quick. I posted a link in Discord if you guys are interested in taking a look at it. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so this morning, we're going to work on the MyReads application. I have already gotten this app installed. Oh yeah, there we go. I've already got this app installed right here, okay? What I've also already done is I've already downloaded these new icons to include the hourglass, the heart, and the check mark, okay? Because those weren't in it, I believe, right? Those were not available. Yes? No? Right? I like looking for anyone's head to be like, yep, no. They were there, but you would have had to do something with them. You would have to go get them, right? From the sample that's provided to you. But we can take a look at that. So I've opened this already with code, VS Code. So it's over here. Okay. We don't need this test, obviously. Let's just remove that. It's just garbage. Okay. And under app.js, you would see those. You could see that those SVGs will cover. Are those SVGs in here at all?
No.
No. How are they displayed? Let me just npm start this. luckily, this will be quick. So we should be able to start this application up and not have any problems. As soon as it's done. Believe it or not, this is actually faster than it was before. It's about twice as fast. Now, I did a lot of testing last night.
Oh, I have a question. When I was doing the npm start, it wouldn't. So I did npm install right after forking and cloning the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it
That's
showed
normal.
me, yeah, it showed me like 2,000 vulnerabilities and
Yep.
two critical, like that's okay. I can ignore that.
Yeah. That's the problem with packages. That's the problem with JavaScript, is that like we're going to get a whole bunch right away, right? 2072 vulnerabilities. The problem with JavaScript is things get old. Okay, so the problem with the JavaScript ecosystem and the problem with many ecosystems for development is that we rely so heavily on other people's work, right? What we did just now was we installed 1,700 packages, 1,700 other people's libraries and JavaScript and work. And the problem is that these go out of date so quickly because maybe they're poorly written, someone finds a vulnerability in them, but they don't go ahead, either they don't go ahead and update them, or we don't update to the newer version. Because every time you update a dependency, you risk breaking your app, right? Because an update could mean it changes how it works, and you risk breaking it. So it's not uncommon for people to not update any of their dependencies for a very long time, and they just deal with this type of stuff and hope to God that this is not going to impact them. Making updates, both to, like, for example, updating a dependency, updating the version of Node that you're using, updating the version of React that you're using. Those are all massive things. Okay, we probably look at that and say, oh, well, like, who cares? What's the big deal? The big deal is it can have huge ramifications on the application that you've been building over the last 2 years, right? Like, you've been building an application for the last 2 years on React 15. I don't know, I'm just making up a number. React 16 comes out and it changes things, right? You can't update to React 16 because if you update to React 16, your app doesn't work anymore. And so you're stuck on 15 until you have the money and time to sink in to changing your app so that way you can upgrade to 16 and it still works. And that's a big thing. And that's a very common thing, which is why when internet vulnerabilities get discovered, it can be disastrous for some companies because they just can't afford to go and make changes to their website or application. Okay, so we did an npm install. We're going to do an npm start, get this thing going. We're going to take a look at it. And while this is starting, so we do have 3 icons, but I've got more icons that I've gone ahead and downloaded. Okay. And all I need to do is move them into the right spot. So just pop open another tab here. Oh, interesting. Oh yeah, that's very interesting. So, you know, like, you don't have to have those icons. This is fine. Those icons are definitely nice, whatever. Okay, let's not worry about that. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So we have something working here. Okay, we've got our little plus button down here. We've got some books in our shelves. So the first thing that you should probably consider doing is, does this plus button go anywhere? Oh yeah, it does, right. It does go somewhere. It doesn't work though the way we want it to work. It's not using React Router DOM. It's using this weird state thing where it's just flipping this flag, and then based on this flag, it's determining which piece of JSX to show. That's all it's doing, right? Show this page or show this page. That's obviously not what we want to do. That's not very good. It doesn't modify our URL, right? It doesn't allow us to go back in history. It misses a lot of the stuff that we're looking for. Okay, so we're going to want to change that. Obviously, we're going to want to, these are just placeholders. We're going to want to change these as well to be, these are static. We want these to be real dynamic books. Okay. We want to be able to change their shelf, and we want to be able to do some searching. So there's a lot of little pieces, and really one of the biggest, most important things for tackling a project like this is breaking it down into pieces, not feeling overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that is out there, of the amount of problems that you're faced with, and look at it one piece at a time. Make a decision on what you want to do, one thing, and focus on getting that done. So I think one of the things that I want to do to start is maybe work on attaching some real books to this, right? Like getting some real books out of the API, some dynamic books, and just loading them into here. And if I can't load them into here, if it doesn't come with anything in currently reading, want to read, or read, then at least I'll hook up to the API. I'll console.log some of the books that I get and see what's out there, see what I get. And then I'll make the decision about where I want to go from there. But so in my head, the first thing I want to do is just connect to the API and get some books in state. That's it, first thing. Okay. So it's been a year since I've done this, so I don't remember. So this is going to be interesting for me too. We can leave this show search page on there for now. I'm just not going to deal with that right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little piece of state over here for my bookshelf, which is all my books. Okay. If you can call it whatever you want, and this might change, right? I'm starting from scratch now. So I'm going to put my books in here. I'm not sorting them by bookshelf. I'm not doing anything yet. We could call it books. Let's just call it books. Okay. I'm just going to put books in there. That's it. And I'll make any decisions that I need to later about like organization, more state, more stuff. Let's just go get books. Where are the books coming from? The books are coming from this API. Okay. In your final project, you're going to have something very, very similar to this. Okay. So just expect something like this. It's worth it to say, where is this being loaded from? Oh, it's being loaded from here. Oh, maybe I should go take a look at this, because this will tell you exactly what functions are available. There is a get function to get a singular book, a get all function, an update function that accepts a book and a new shelf, and a search function that accepts a query. So if there's code available to be looked at, I would look at it, right? in a real world situation, you're going to be expected to explore the rest of the code in the system that you're going to be interacting with. There's going to be a lot of code that you didn't write and that you need to look at. Okay, so it's not uncommon to have to go and look for yourself to figure out how these things work. Now, don't worry about this local storage thing. The more important thing and more interesting thing is that these are fetches and they are returning books. If we hooked up if we performed one of them, for example, if we did this, books API dot get all, this will get all the books. We can attach a then onto this because this is returning. So remember, when we return from thens, we also return a promise. So we can connect another then onto it and look at the results for the books. And then just take a look at that. Now, obviously, this is getting all sorts of red lines because it's not in a function, right? We need to put this thing in a function. It doesn't like just floating out here in space in this class, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap it in a function that loads up these books on component load. So when our page loads, right? That's what we want. When this page loads, we want to go get all the books. That's what we want, okay? We don't want to search at this point. We don't want to update. We don't want to get a specific book. We want to get all the books. And when these are the books on our bookshelves, essentially. Okay, now I know we don't have any yet, at least none that we know of, but we're gonna go check. Okay, so we're going to get all the books. So we want it to happen when the main page loads. Okay, and when this page loads, we can tie into that loading, and that happens on component did mount. So by tapping in, by putting this function on here, we are essentially tapping into that onload. This is essentially an onload for this component. When this component loads up, run this function. Okay, this is not where all your API calls have to be. This is not where all your fetches have to be. All this is a lifecycle event. Okay, lifecycle. Lifecycle is, think of a human lifecycle. We're born, we're babies, we're infants, we're teenagers, we're seniors, we die, right? We have different stages in our life cycle. These components also have different stages. They get loaded, they exist, they get mounted, they render, right? They do all these, they go through this thing, and eventually, at some point in time, they disappear, right? They get unmounted because someone navigated away from the page, someone closed the browser, something happened. Okay, so component did mount is just a life cycle event. So we're tapping into that. We're saying when you load up, call the API, go get the books. Let's print it out to console. That's it. Let's take a look at what we got here. Okay, so we're going to head on over here. Books API is not defined. Import. Oh,
The API is
letter.
thanks. There we go. Hey, now it's up. Okay. Okay, so it doesn't look any different, but that, right? We're just console logging this stuff. So it looks like we have an array of 7 elements. And we do. 7 elements right here. So we have 7 books that we can start displaying on our bookshelf. So that's awesome, right? If this was 0, that would suck. That means I couldn't go further with this part because I can't start displaying any books on my shelves because I don't have any books. But the nice thing is it gives me some books to start off with. So that's perfect. So the next thing I'm going to do is I created this little piece of state here for the books. I'm just going to insert those books into state. Okay, let's just get those out. So let's say this dot set state books is equal to books. And actually, because of the shorthand, I can just say books. There's a special shorthand for objects, where if they have a key and it's the same key property as the property that you're using, as a variable that you're using, it'll automatically set it. Okay. Just a little shortcut. It's the same as doing this.
Are you saying it's okay because the books and books are the same string?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not the same string, but they match, right? This matches this.
Huh.
If this was some book, I couldn't do it.
Wouldn't work. Okay.
It wouldn't work. But because this is just a JavaScript thing, where when they match like that, you can just say this. So when the variable name matches the property, the key of the key, or any of the keys, you can just use that directly. You don't have to say which one you're trying to update, which property you're trying to update or set or anything. Okay. So we have our state. Now let's go check to see if this is working. We can just head on over here to our components. Take a look at that, and here we go. Oops. Hey, click. Come on, man. There we go. There we go. So I've increased the size here. We have now 7 books in my state of my books app, right? Which is class books app. State books. Okay, cool. Part 1 done. I got some books. Now, I think at this point, for me, in my head, it's logical for me to do the next point, the next piece, which is stop showing these placeholder books and start showing the books that I got. That's the next logical point, but the next logical step for me. To do that, I think what I'm going to do is looking at this stuff. It looks like, sorry, it looks like these books would make great components, right? They're pretty big. They've got a lot of little stuff in them, and it's an individual book. It's got some options, right? To me, it seems like I want to move this stuff out into a component. So I'm going to go and create a new book component. New file, book.js, and I'm going to copy. What's over here? Oh yeah, I'm going to copy all the HTML that it requires to build a book. Okay, so what HTML or JSX, if you will, is required to build a book? Well, here's the OL, so ordered list. It looks like a book, a singular book, is one of these things. Okay, one of these LIs. And you can double check. You can head on over to your thing. You can click on it. You can hover over it. So your OL is that big blue thing. Your LI is this smaller thing, this book. So kind of confirms my assumption. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to head on over to book. I'm just going to paste that in. I'm going to clean that up. Okay. I don't know yet what book is going to be, whether or not it's going to be a stateless component or a stateful class. I'm going to make it a stateless component to start, though. Import React from React. And if I need to later down the line, I'll change it. Book. Okay, and we're definitely going to be taking in props because we've got all these, like this title, this author, all this other stuff that we're probably going to want to have include about the book that we're going to be wanting to put in here. So we're definitely going to be taking in props here. Okay. And we're going to say return blah and pop this li right in there. And of course it didn't format correctly. It never does. There we go. And export default function books. Okay. Now we have our props, we have our book. Okay. The other thing, so great. We have a book. So we have this. This could be a book. Now we don't have a book yet. Like we haven't imported anything. I'm still kind of evaluating how I want to do this. This is another book. And we have another book over here. And another book over here. And a couple more books. The other thing that I'm looking at that we have here is we have these bookshelves. And these bookshelves, they look like, so it's complaining at me. I don't have book defined. I know that. That's okay, right? That's okay right now. We have these bookshelves over here and they are repeating. Now there's two ways you can deal with this. You can deal with this in this way, where you have 3 hard-coded bookshelves. Okay, so currently reading, want to read, and read. Okay, that's definitely one way, and you can repeat it. But programmers tend to look at stuff like this, and I know I do. I look at stuff like this and I say, what time of day is it? How much time do I have to complete this thing? I've got time. Okay. I'm under I don't have a lot of pressure, a lot of deadlines. This annoys me. I'm going to make this dynamic. I don't like the fact that I'm repeating this 3 times. What if a new bookshelf comes in? Right? What if we want to add a new bookshelf? Okay, then I have to come in here and copy and paste and do all this stuff. That, to me, that's annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to split this off into its own component. So I'm going to make that it's going to have a parent, a child, and that child is going to have a child as well. So the way this is going to happen, right? This is going to be very much like what we did before, okay? When we had book is no longer going to belong to app. It's now going to belong to this bookshelf, and bookshelf is going to belong to app. Okay, so we're going to do it like this. Source, new file, bookshelf.js. If you didn't do it like this, that's fine. Okay, not everyone's going to do it the same way. This is just my way of doing it. So I'm going to copy this over to here. Okay, and I think this is going to be a functional component too. So import React from React, export default. This is going to be called bookshelf. Bookshelf function. Bookshelf, and probably going to need some props. Okay, and we're going to put this like that. We're going to wrap it with a return. Okay, so now my app is going to look kind of more like this. Ah, all right. Oh, like that. There. So this is what my app is going to look like now. So I'm cleaning it up a lot, right? So bookshelf. So part of this is because of repetition. Part of this, a lot. So how do I know what's a component, what's not a component? You don't know, right? There is no clearly defined guidelines of what a component is and what's not a component. Things that make me want to build components are repetition. When I start to see repetition, or when I start to see large pieces of JSX or HTML that I want, it wants me to clean it up. And to me, it's cleaning it up. It's like taking that mess that's on the floor in the living room, opening a closet and pushing it all into the closet. Is the mess still a mess? Yes, but it's hidden away in a closet now, and now the living room looks cleaner. Okay, so you're breaking up these pieces, and you're more able to understand the application now. Okay, it's easier to understand. You might argue that. You might say, well, actually, there's more files, so it's harder to understand. But now it's broken down into smaller pieces, smaller components. Okay, so that's my approach usually. Repetition and pieces. Like, can I break it into pieces? I'm always excited. I want to break this up into components all the time. Is there a component here? I want to do that, right? So there's lots of opportunities. Okay, so how we're going to do this, we're going to import bookshelf to app, import bookshelf from bookshelf, okay, and we're using it down here, okay, and then we're going to, inside bookshelf, we're going to import book from book. Okay. So there's a couple ways to manage this. So first off, let's just pass in the name of the bookshelf and the matching books. Okay. So when we look at these books, so we have books in state. When we look at these books, what we need to do is we need to go take a look at the data that's in state, and we need to go take and kind of do a little bit of investigation. Figure out what sort of data it has. How do we know what bookshelf it belongs to? How are we going to print out the books in these bookshelves? Okay, so we have 3 bookshelves to represent those 3 bookshelves. Okay, how do we know how do we pass the right books to the bookshelf? Okay, so with almost every application, you're going to need to look at, you always need to know what data you're working with. 100% all the time. If you don't know what data you're working with, you're not doing your job. Okay, so we need to know what data we're working with and what the data looks like. So we're going to head on over to our state over here, which isn't going to work. Oh, hey, look at that, To Kill a Mockingbird 3 times. Oh yeah, because that's the book. That's the book. So let's take a look at our book. So we have a book. It's got categories. It's got authors. Authors is an array. Interesting. It's got a description. It has an ID. You could probably use that ID somewhere too. It has a shelf. Hey, look at that. Currently reading. Cool. Okay. So we're going to use this. We're going to use this shelf as the definer to determine which shelf this book goes on. And how about the other shelf? Currently reading. Want to read. Okay. And read. Okay, cool. So we have the 3 shelves all in there. So I can essentially say, go get, so if I wanted, for example, this bookshelf has a name, currently reading. Now, if we go and look, you see currently reading. That's not cool. I need, what was it? What's on the top? Currently reading, want to read, read. I need those three. So I do not want this to be static. I want this to be dynamic, right? I want it to come from props. We'll call it props.bookshelf title. Okay, that doesn't exist, but let's create that. Okay, let's say bookshelf title equals, and just for now, and maybe permanently, I don't know, we're going to say want to read. That's the first one, right? Oh, currently reading, want to read, read. Okay, so we'll move this one down over here. And then we'll do this one's going to be currently reading. And this one is going to be read. Cool. So now we gave our bookshelves 3 different names. So we are dynamically setting the names of those bookshelves, kind of dynamically, right? They're dynamic here. They're not dynamic here. They're hard-coded here, okay? And that could be okay. You're going to end up with some stuff like this in your app. I would almost argue all the time, okay? But now we have currently reading, want to, is that, yeah, currently reading, want to read, read. Beautiful. Okay, the bookshelf names are being placed on there. Next up, we need to pass in these books to these bookshelves, okay? So a really easy way is to go along with what's going on here, right? Currently reading, want to read, read. Okay, so which books go with the bookshelf currently reading? The books that have the bookshelf currently reading. How do I get only those books? Think. John, could I filter it? I sure could, right?
Property for the shelf?
Yeah, based off the property for the shelf. So I have an array of books, and the books have a property called shelf, and they're going to belong in one of 3 shelves. Currently 4 shelves. Empty, nothing, no shelf. Currently reading, read, or want to read. Now, if I'm looking to get a specific book, specific books with a specific shelf, I can say, get me all the books with this shelf. And I can do that by saying, using filter. That's what filter's built for, right? So I can say, here, take these books, okay, and the books that I'm going to pass down to that bookshelf are this dot state dot books dot filter. And we're going to say, go find the book, all the books that match book dot shelf equals currently reading. So go get all the books on the shelf currently reading in the state.
Hey, John.
Yep.
Can we just rename bookshelf title into currently reading and then put equals bookshelf title? Like if we fix
then the title on the page will.
Oh, it's gonna print as that. Yeah. Oh, okay.
We'll deal with that later. That is like optimal. So yes, definitely. Can you do that? Yes. Can you do a little? So yes, if you don't follow, that's fine. We'll come back to it after. But Kevin, if I move this into here, right? I actually only need 1 bookshelf. I can just loop over the different shelves and it will just automatically print out the bookshelf, right? And the books that go with it. But the problem is then this bookshelf is not currently spaced reading, it's currently reading.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we know programming, we can mess around with this string and convert it to something correct like this. Absolutely. Very common. But that is an optimization. Okay. Optimizations should be left until the end, because our goal is to get this thing done, because our boss is right behind us breathing down our neck, right? If we have time, we'll come back and we'll fix that. If we don't have time, we won't, and it'll just exist like that. Do we know? So while you're programming, you have to prioritize these things. One, get it done. Two, optimize. Okay, because otherwise you're going to be building this amazing application that is never going to get done on time. But good idea. So we're going to do the same thing over here. And if you knew that already, then I'm just stating it for other people. So we're going to filter out the books based on the same kind of categories we want to read. And this guy over here is red. Okay, so now in our bookshelf, we also have books, props.books, right? We pass down books. So now our bookshelf has props.books. So we're now able to loop over props.books.map book and render out individual books. Right? Props.books. It has the books that match the shelf. And now we can take that book and push it down to the next component, which is the book. Book equals book. Missing one of these. There we go. Okay, so we're going to push that down even further. We're going to loop through the books that we pass down to the bookshelf, and we're going to push that further down to the next component, the book component. And I'm going to go down to the book component, and we take a look, and we see, okay, we've got a title, we've got some authors, we've got a background image. Probably going to have to change that. Okay, so let's take a look. We're going to have to go back to our data and take a look to see what we're working with again. Okay, because those are the things we need: title, authors, cover, URL for the image. Let's go take a look. Components, oops, over here on the books app, our books state. You could still be console logging this stuff out. You do whatever you need to do to get access to this data so you can evaluate it. And we see authors. Authors is an array. Okay, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Books can have multiple authors, I guess. So I'm gonna take a look at a couple more. So I wanna see, is there any, oh yeah, so they can have multiple authors, okay? So authors, let's deal with that one right now. So I think the way I wanna deal with authors is I want to get this. So this is going to be props.book.authors, right? Because I'm in the book thing, right? I'm in the book component. It's got props. I passed in the book, so props.book. And it's got authors. And this is an array. It won't display very well like this. But what I know it does display well is if I use the join. Join will join elements of an array together as a string and inject whatever I want in between them. I think in this case, what's fine for me is probably just a comma. Join on a comma space, and then there we go. So you get this. I mean, you could, if you want to get fancy, you could probably do an ampersand. Or the word and. Right. So then you get something like this, harming, right? It just gets really kind of weird when it's like this person and this person and this person. So I think comma is probably fine. Sometimes in programming, you're going to make these decisions because honestly, your boss or the client or other people are they just don't know the data well enough to know that this thing might happen, that, they're thinking books are written by an author. But what they don't realize is some books are written by multiple authors. Now, there's going to be a ton of little decisions that are going to cross your plate every day as a developer. Okay, a lot of the big decisions are going to already be made, and so you just have to do. But there's a ton of tiny decisions that are not made because they're such small details that people don't think about them. But they're all important, and you're going to make a decision like this, and they might come along tomorrow and say, "Oh, why is there a comma in between these authors?" And you might say, "Well, I don't know. I just did something." Right? Like whatever was easiest. And then they might say, no, I want it to be like this. And so you make that change, right? But you will have to make a lot of decisions yourself. And then we have the book title, okay? And that is book. Let's take a look at book title. What is it under? Subtitle, title. Do we want the subtitle? Let's just go with title. And again, that's a decision. Okay, it's easy for you to make this decision right now because you could just go over here and say, what did John do? No, he didn't put the subtitle. Okay, and over here, he just put breaks, BRs for the authors. Okay, well, I'll just do that, right? It's easy for you when you have a point of reference and you're trying to copy something. But in real life, you don't. And what's going to say props.book.title. Great. And then we have this background image we're going to have to deal with. Remember this weird syntax, right? The double curly brace. Why is it a double curly brace?
That's
reason,
the CSS part right in there.
Yeah, okay. So the double curly brace is object within the curly brace. Remember, the curly brace allows us to go into JavaScript from JSX. So the first curly brace, we're going into JavaScript, right? The second curly brace is saying this thing that's inside is a JavaScript object with properties, right? So that's why we have this double curly brace, because style in JavaScript can accept, it can be accepted as a object. And so that's why it's not background dash lowercase I image, it's background image, all one word, uppercase I. And that's why these are colons and commas and not colons and semicolons, okay? So over here in background image, we are going to be pulling in on that book. Okay, and it has a info link, preview link. That looks like a good one. Description, info link, probably this. Let's take a look at this. And let's see what that is. Okay. Is that what this is? Yeah, that's what that is. So that is what we're going to be using, is preview link. Okay, preview link. And you can tell that's the right one because it has the, it matches.
Isn't it the image links?
Is there image link? Let me take a look. I should be looking at this one. Content version, description, preview link, reading modes. Oh, image links. Yeah, that's the right one. Cool. Small thumbnail or thumbnail. So we'll probably go with image links, small thumbnail. So we're gonna go. We're gonna take this and right in here, we're gonna delete this. And we're going to do something crazy. We're gonna go with more brackets. Actually, no, let's go with backticks in here. And then we'll do this. Okay, and we'll say props.book dot image links dot thumbnail. Okay, and that will put that into this URL. So sometimes you have to do a little bit of crazy stuff to really get to the data that you want. And some of this will be trial and error, especially if you haven't done a lot of it, right? Now we're at the point where we have, yeah.
Should it be small thumbnail?
I don't know. We have
Small thumbnail.
image links,
I've used
thumbnail, and
thumbnail.
small. Yeah.
Is there a thumbnail?
Whatever.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, there's both. There's both. How would you know how to do this stuff? And the answer is, like, again, I'll repeat this. There's a lot of stuff that you don't know how to do, but we have enough background now that we can do a little bit of educated guesswork, a little bit of trial and error, a little bit of application of, well, I think I should be able to do it here because I've done something like this before, right? But remember, we're constantly building things that we've never built before. We're constantly doing stuff we've never done. So try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't, if it still doesn't work, go online and do a little bit of research. And let's see where we're at. Okay, we got books. Hey, we've got books on our shelves. That's pretty big. Okay, now, one of the things that you'll notice is when I click on these, it says currently reading. Currently reading is highlighted. How about when I click on this one? Currently reading is highlighted. How about when I click on this one? Currently reading is highlighted. What we want is when we click on want to read books, want to read is highlighted. When I click on this one, red is highlighted, right? Because that is the shelf that it is currently on. That is the one that is selected. Okay, so over here in this select box, we can say value equals, no, I think it's on select, I feel like it's value. Value equals props.books.shelf. Props.book.shelf. Okay, so if you take a look, selects have values. Options have values, but they have also different things that they display, right? But our shelf is going to match the value. Our shelf matches this value. Currently reading, want to read, red, right? And so when we set I believe it's value, I believe the property's value. If I'm wrong, we'll go look up the correct word for the property, okay? If we set the value on the select, it will automatically place the option onto whichever option value matches the value for the select. So if this is currently reading, then this will be selected for us by default. Okay, let's see if that's how it's working. Refresh. Perfect. So we're on want to read. And so the books, the value that it's displaying, the option that it's displaying by default is want to read. Over here, it should be red. Beautiful. And over here, it should be currently reading. Beautiful. That's expected behavior. Okay, that's what we want. If this was your final project, I believe that's what it says in the requirements anyways. If it doesn't, those are pretty poor requirements. So we are currently selecting the correct value based on the bookshelf that it's in. All right. So major piece done. So this is where it's a really great time. We're not going to, but it is a really great time to pat yourself on the back, play 10 minutes of your favorite game, read the news, have a bowl of cereal, go for a walk outside, go vape. I don't know. Do whatever you do to celebrate and make yourself feel better. Okay. And then we're going to tackle the next piece. So I'm going to have a sip of coffee because that's what I do to make myself feel better. It's ice cold at this point too. Ugh. It's strange. I like iced coffee, but when I'm expecting warm coffee, I don't want it. Okay. So next piece, I think for me, we've got a couple of different like spots that we can head to next. We can either look at doing this plus and this search and breaking things down into pages and adding new books, or we can look at taking the books that we currently have and shuffling them from one shelf to the next, like making this button work. Those are options. I think I'm going to go with the second option. I want to make these buttons work. I don't want to deal with another page and a bunch of other junk. I want to get these buttons to work so that when I switch the book to a different shelf, something happens and the book moves. Okay, that's what I want. So in order to do that, I'm obviously going to need to put some sort of on change on this select, right? So on this select, we're going to need an on change event because when this changes, something needs to happen. What is that something? I don't know, but something needs to happen. So we're going to say an on change. Well, like we know what's going to happen. It's going to change the bookshelf, right? I don't know how yet, but I know it's going to. So who manages, where are these bookshelves managed? Well, right now they're managed kind of way up here in app in the book itself. That's where the bookshelf exists, right? That's where the shelf exists. That's where the book exists. So that's where the shelf exists. Are they managed right now? No, they're not managed, but I do know for a fact that I cannot change the book down here because the book state does not exist down here in book. It's just, this is a dumb component. It doesn't know anything. All it does is say, give me data. And then it takes the data and it displays it. It doesn't make any, it has no brains. Okay, I actually believe they're called dumb components. Is that right? Has someone read that? Yeah, no? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have an on change over here, yes, because this is where that triggers. However, the actual function that is going to make that change is going to be way up here in Bookshelf app. So we're going to have to pass that down. We're going to have to pass that data, that function down to here. So it's going to go from app down to bookshelf, down to book. And we've done this before. This is not new. Okay. So way up here in state, I'm going to say update bookshelf. And we should probably, we need to know two pieces of information. This is a little bit different, right? Before, we've just been adding books or adding things and removing things. But now we need to change things. So we're going to update the bookshelf and we're going to say, we need to know two pieces of information. I need to know which book you want to update, and I need to know where you want to put it, what shelf you want it to be on. Okay. Now, it's Control X. Is that what I'm hitting here? Save. Control X. No, Control X is cut. Oh,
What are you trying to do?
I hit this key combination. I think it was control something, and it tried to close the file. And I want to know what that was because I want to be able to do that purposefully, but I don't know what keystroke it was. File. Close window. Close editor. Control W. I don't think it was Control W. Okay, that's fine. So we're going to need to know the book and the shelf. Okay, and we're going to do stuff. We're going to update the book. We're going to change the shelf of this book in question, right? In state, right? The goal is we want to do it with the state. Of course, I can go and do it over here inside this component, but this component doesn't have any state. And so that's not my goal. My goal is to, when I change the state of this book in the shelf of the book in state, updating the state is going to cause a re-render, right? The re-render is then going to force this page to update, and the book will look like it changed shelves. So that's what we're going to do. So way down here in onChange, in our book component, we put an onChange in the select, and we're going to have to, again, pass this update bookshelf all the way down. So we're going to pass it down through props to this bookshelf. Now we're getting a little bit long in the tooth here, so we're going to fix this up to look like that. Update bookshelf. Excuse me. Interesting. Update bookshelf, and we're going to say equals this update bookshelf. Okay, and we're going to have to do this 3 times. And as I'm seeing this, I'm like, oh man, and now I have to do this 3 times because I have 3 different bookshelves. You know, there's better ways to manage this. Like, imagine if we had an array that we looped over. And this array had 2 pieces of information. It had 2 arrays inside of it, and they look like this. The bookshelf name and the bookshelf shelf. Imagine that. And then we did that 3 times. Now, this is a small optimization. Okay, so I have an array of arrays, and I'm looping over them. Okay, with map, because map likes stuff. Now, I don't need 3 of these bookshelves, and I don't need to update 3 bookshelves 3 times, because I'm just going to run this loop, which has the bookshelf name and the bookshelf shelf thingy that we're comparing to. And it's going to run as many for each of the bookshelves. 1, 2, 3. And the nice thing about that, say shelf, is that I can do this, and I can just fix these up with a couple of changes. So instead of currently reading, it is shelf 1. It's this thing. And over here, the title, bookshelf title, is going to be shelf 0. And now anytime I need to update this bookshelf and I need to put some more stuff on it, I can just do it once instead of repeating it 3 times over and over and over again. Okay, so this is my first optimization. And I'm just doing this because doing this was almost as much work as putting this on 3 things and fixing the indentation 3 times. And I'm also under the assumption that I'm probably gonna need to do more stuff like that too. So if I save this and I come back here, I refresh, well, it should automatically refresh, nothing's changed, right? I just, instead of hard coding those 3 times, this is just JavaScript, right? This is just programming, an optimization. Instead of hard coding, instead of repeating something 3 times manually, I'm going to loop over something 3 times. Now, this may not be the best structure for containing this. Maybe this would have been better as an array of objects, right? Where we have shelf name and shelf shelf. So then we could say shelf.name and shelf, right? That's fine too. Okay, whatever works for you. Does everyone see what I did here? Does anyone have any questions of why I did this? Okay. I don't want anyone to get confused about what's going on here and why I decided to do that. It's just easier for me now. Now I just have to update one bookshelf. Okay, so we're passing down update bookshelf. This is going all the way down. Okay, so we need to pass it down through book as well. Oops. So update bookshelf is now props.update bookshelf. And we're passing that down to book. Finally, down in book, on change, we are calling update props.update bookshelf. Okay, and I need to pass it 2 pieces of information. I need to pass it the value of this thing, right? Because it's an on change. On change, we want to know what is the value. Where are we moving it to? Are we moving it to currently reading, wants to read, or read, right? What is the value that this changed to? And the book itself. Now you can do this inline here, for sure you could, but okay, let's do it inline. Let's look at what this would look like inline. So we need to pass the book and the value. Okay, book is easy enough. That's props.book. Okay, where's value coming from? Value is coming from
e.target.
.target.value. Now, the problem is if I run this, E does not exist inside this. Remember, this is a function. This is an anonymous function. Just like those previous event listener functions that we had before, right? We used to write an event listener that looked like this. We used to have an element and we'd say ele1.add event listener, right? And then we used to put a function. And sometimes if we wanted to say e.target.value, we had to accept E. If we didn't accept E, E does not exist, or event, or whatever we want to call it. And that's the same thing that's happening here. Okay. If we want to have access to E inside of this function, remember it's just an arrow function, so it's like a single line. We need to accept it. Now we have access to it. Okay. So we're passing the book and the value. And let's go take a look to see if we have the book and the shelf, the new shelf. That's really what it is, the new shelf. And maybe that would be a better parameter for this. But okay, let's go take a look to see how we're doing here. Console log. So we need to fix that. And we have line 21, the book and the shelf. So the book and the shelf. The new shelf that we want, right? So we're on currently reading and I want to move to read. So this should be the next thing that should come out should be a book object followed by a little string that looks like read. Perfect. So a book object followed by a little string that with the value read. Okay. Last piece before we take a little break, let's update the shelf for this book. Okay. So the easy way to do this would be go to this API. Let's take a look. And hey, it has an update function. And what it takes is the book and the shelf. Hey, that's what we need. So we're going to say books API dot update. We're going to pass it the book. We're going to pass it the shelf. And it's going to update it for us. And then we're going to say then, and we're going to take a look at what it gives us back. I don't know what it gives us back. So let's say result. I don't know what result will be, so we'll console log it. We can figure this out by looking at the data itself, right, at the API. What does it do? It does a fetch, puts some data, stringifies it, and then it passes us back the result. So let's take a look at what the result is. So we're going to change this, want to read, and it passes us back currently reading. It passes us back a set of an object of the 3 bookshelves and the IDs of the book in each bookshelf. I would say not super useful for me. Like, I could probably use this if I wanted to, but I don't think I want to. This is not super useful for me, right? It says, here are the books. Here are the book IDs in this bookshelf. Here are the book IDs in the read bookshelf, and here are the book IDs in the currently reading bookshelf. Like I said, sure, I can use that. I don't really think I want to, though. So here's what we need to do. So we've updated the API. Okay, so the API, why would I do that? I thought we were going to update state. And the answer is yes, we're going to update state as well. But here's the thing. We don't want the state. So the state is really for the UI of the app, right? What the app, the data, the state that represents the data that's being shown to the users. Now, we don't want to update this page by moving this book to want to read if the real source of truth, i.e. the database or the API, right, where the data is coming from in the first place, if I can't update this, or if an error occurs when I try to update this, total possibility, I don't want to change the UI, right? I don't want the UI to be an incorrect reflection of the data from the API. So what I mean to say is, what can happen is I can try to update this. If this fails, I should not be setting state. I should not be updating the state. So I don't want to update state here, right? Because I want to make sure that this succeeds first. I don't necessarily want to update state here. What I want to do is I want to update state here inside. This then indicates success, right? So updating state out here means that I'm going to attempt this, and regardless of the outcome, update state, because remember, this is asynchronous. Updating it up here is going to say, I'm going to update the state first, and then I'm going to push the results up to book API. And that's not good either. So I want to do it inside of here, where I guarantee this means if I'm here, it was successful. That's what this means. If it was successful, good. Now we'll update the UI of the app to correctly represent the data in the API. Because that's all this application is, really. It's a representation of the data found in the API. Also, the API is the source of truth for this data. The state is just to help React manage when to re-render, what to show, right? That's it. It is not the real source of truth. We're filling it up from some other location. So the easy way to do this is we can do it one of two ways. Way number one, the easy but the hard but optimized way is go into our state and update that singular book. Go find that book in state, update that book. Okay, that's the easy way. Sorry, that's the hard way. The easy way is right? Update the API. The result that it gives me is trash. I don't even care for it. I'm not even going to accept it. I don't even want it. Instead, go back to the API and get all the books again, because it has the updated information in it now. And then use that to set the state again. So this is not optimized and not ideal, right? Because technically, I don't need to go. This is the easy way. Okay, this is the shit. I got to finish this app in half an hour because the client's expecting it. I'm just doing this, right? But imagine having to go fetch 1,000 books, right? The time that it takes would be way longer. Now, way longer is a matter of opinion, but multiply this by the 1 million users that you have using this app and the load on your servers, okay? You technically don't need to ping that. You technically don't need to go back to the API again to go get this. Technically, you can manage this in state at this point. But this is definitely the easy way, and it works, okay? See, watch. So we're going back, we're grabbing all the books again, and we're just updating the state. So watch it works. Okay, that's the easy way. Let's do the hard way, the correct way. Then we'll take a break. Okay, the correct way is don't go back to the API again, right? We don't need to. We know that the update was successful. So let's just update the state with that information now, with the book and the shelf, okay? So the first thing we need to do is we know we need to use the previous state because we need to go get that book. This dot set state. Okay, previous state. And we're going to do the long, complicated version because I want you to see it again. Okay, the long, complicated version is go find the index of this object. Clone the object, update the clone, splice the clone back in at the same index as the original object. okay? And then use this as the new state. So this is the plan. Okay, and we've done this before, we've done this once before. There are easier ways, like I just showed you. There are better ways, there are easier ways, but this is probably the best way, okay? Least amount of, least optimized, but better. Go find the index of this object, okay? That's easy enough. And this object is book. Okay, let's go find the index of book, and that is inside previous state. So we're gonna say const original or book index equals prev state dot find. Is it find index or index of? Find index? I think it's find index, and we're going to go and we're going to give it book, right? And this will go find the index of this element, book. Okay, so we'll get the index of this. Is this a function? My brain, but not my brain. This is normal, right? You don't memorize these things if you don't use them all the time. Find index, JavaScript, find index. Let's go see. Does it take a function? Find index. No, it doesn't take a. Oh wait, it does take a function. Okay, so it needs to be a book element. Book equals.
John, previous state dot books. Sorry, back to previous state dot books.
Previous state dot books. Previous state dot books. I want to go look at all the books inside my state, right? And find index. So it takes a callback function. And I didn't remember that. I didn't memorize that. I had to go look at the documentation, which is why the documentation is there, right? So we have our book index. Now I need to go find, the reason why I went to go get the index instead of the book itself is because I need to know the index of this book for when I want to splice it back in. Okay, splice requires an index of where to use it. So I'm going to need to know this index anyways. Now I'm going to create a clone of that book. Okay, so to create a clone of that book, I'm going to say const book clone equals, and we're going to get prev state books, and we're going to say book index. So we're going to go get the book at this spot. Okay, so this represents the book at this index, and we're going to clone it. Okay, so clone the object, and we're updating the clone. So we can find the book object, clone it, and update it all at once, because we found the index, we're getting the book, we're cloning it, and if we put this comma on and a new shelf, okay, then it will, and this is shelf, comma, shelf, right? But because they're the same, I can just say shelf, right? Just like I did up here with books. It will, remember, if this property exists on this object, it will override it. If it doesn't, it will create it. So I'm leveraging.
I wouldn't need to the curly brace the shelf part. Just leave it like that. It's okay.
Like this? No, because now you're trying to merge an object called shelf into there, right?
Okay.
And it's not. It's just a property. So you can. This is going to be a set of properties. Well, this would be a singular. Now you have me thinking. This should be okay. This should be okay. Yeah. This should be okay. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is good. Yes, because I'm in an object already. Okay. So we cloned it and we updated it. Okay, so now we have book clone. Now we need to splice it back in to prev state. Okay, so now we're going to say this, and we're going to use this as our new state. So this is our third line. We're going to do this all in one shot. Okay, we're going to return, we need to return a new state. So our new state is going to look like this, books, and it is going to be prev state books, a new cloned object, right? We're doing that again, but this time we're not just cloning a singular object, we're cloning the entire array of books. Actually, that's an array, not an object. The entire array of books. Okay, and we're going to splice in to this clone. Okay. That's a problem. I cannot splice in directly into here, unfortunately. Because why can I not? Okay, so who can tell me why I shouldn't do this?
Right. Doesn't it return you the modified array?
I don't know about that. That's actually not what I was thinking of, but let's find out if you're right, because that's another great reason why I shouldn't do that. What does it return? Return the array containing the deleted, an array containing the deleted elements. Yeah, definitely don't want to do that. Okay, so that's definitely not what I want to do. The other reason why I don't want to do this is I can't modify states directly. So I need to clone the state first. So we're going to do this. Okay. Boop. We're cloning the state. Now I can actually modify this cloned state. Okay, and actually I don't need to put it, yeah. So I'm going to need to splice this thing. Okay, so let's make a clone state. Okay, so we have our clone state. Now I can splice this thing. Okay, clone state. And I can splice this guy. Clone state.splice, and it modifies it in place. So it doesn't need to return anything. And in fact, I don't care about what it returns. It returns an array containing the deleted elements. I don't want that. Okay. I believe I'm saying it takes a few arguments. It says, what are the arguments? The start, the amount to delete, and the new item to insert. So the start is book index, right? The index of where the book exists. How many items am I deleting? Just that one, right? The original book. And what am I inserting? Book clone. So this is a complicated way of doing it. But what this does is it guarantees that I remove the book from that location in the array and I replace it in the same spot. A much easier way to do this, but is prone to some bugs, is filtering out that one book and inserting a new clone at the end. That's an easier way to do this because you don't have to go and find the index. You can just go find the book, clone it, filter it out, and insert. But it doesn't keep the order consistent. In this case, it would work, and that's fine, but not what I want. And then finally, we're going to return books and the new cloned state with the new updated book. Complicated, okay? Updating state is complicated. There's not much more I can say about it. Okay, but we've updated the book at the API. So this guarantees this data that's in the API also it saves it, right? So that we say that API persists that data. What it means to persist data is that even after we reload our browser, even after we reset our computer or turn it back on or close it, like any of that, the data is still going to be updated, right? So I'm moving this book. Hopefully my update state works. Ooh, it did. Okay. I'm not hitting the API endpoint again. Now watch what happens. I close this tab. I open that tab again, and that book is still in that bookshelf. That is not state that's doing that. That's the API that's doing that. The API is persisting that data because it saved that data in a database somewhere, I don't know where. Doesn't matter where, right? On the internet somewhere. So that data is being saved. The state is simply updating the UI. Okay. And there we have it. That is our super complicated update set state. Necessary? Maybe not. The best way to do it? Probably the one I can think of right now, right? Find the book, clone the state, splice it back in, and redo that. There are easier ways, like I showed you. There are easier ways. Here's the full way you might need this. Any questions before we take a break? We're almost done, actually.
Oh, before you were taking the semi-incorrect, the easy way, using the component did mount thing. Can we just say component did mount
No.
underneath it? No.
I wouldn't do
Why?
that. I would not call. I mean, like, could you call component did mount?
Right in there, in the system.
I wouldn't. I
Okay.
wouldn't. I would reuse this. I would copy and paste this. Using a function that is part of the life cycle frightens me a little bit because I'm
Okay.
worried about what React might also be doing under the hood, right? Because this is kind of like, this is React's function. React is the one that's calling this, and it might do other things other than just the stuff I have here when this function is called. It might trigger something else to happen, and so that frightens me a little bit. If you really wanted to do that, I would dig into this a little bit more and see what the community does at large, if that's okay. Because if you did, I would be a little bit concerned of other bugs showing up. But can I call component did mount? Good way. Is calling component did mount within a function bad practice? Well, you shouldn't really do that. It's a lifecycle method. What you want is this structure, component did mount. Yeah. Not recommended to call lifecycle methods in any function. Yeah, there you go. So, any other questions?
How much time are we getting for the final?
2 days. 2.5 days. I'll consider extending it by several hours till the next morning, but that's probably it. Here is the reasoning. Here's my reasoning here. If this is the okay, so keep in mind this is the last time we're doing a project. Okay, so there's not going to be another hyper stress situation with me. I think Mohammed's a cakewalk. I think you guys are going to be totally fine in that class. You're probably all going to destroy backend. You could probably have a 5-month nap. So I'm going to put you in a stressful situation, right? I'm going to give you a massive project and a short timeline. If you don't finish it, that's fine. I'm okay with that, right? I'm not evaluating this on a 100% completion rate, right? If you completed, you can get 100%. If you don't complete it, there's no way, like if 2 days is not enough time and only one person completes the project, fine, that's okay. I want to place you in a stressful situation where you feel like the walls are closing in and you don't have enough time to get this thing out. I'm not asking you to do all-nighters. Okay, that is not what I'm asking. But I want to see where you come out on the other side, because in real life, this is where it's going to be. And remember, this is a culmination of everything that we've done so far. So it's big, it's got a lot of pieces, but you've done it all before. That's the trick. I'm not asking you to build anything new. I'm asking you to take all the pieces of stuff that you've done in the past and put them together. Okay. So don't hate me. Over the next 2 days, you can curse me, but in the end, trust me, this is for your own well-being. You'll appreciate this in 6 months.
I mean, we'll see where the cards lie after I get my
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. But I'm not doing this with the intention on like, oh, I'm going to get some students, I'm going to fail some students here. That's not my goal, right? But it's also not my goal just to give you an easy peasy, like, here, just sign your name on this sheet. There you go. There's the final project. See ya, right? I want to put you in a stressful situation, and I want to see how you come out the other side. Some people crumble. It's important to have those exercises where you're just like under a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, because you can learn a lot about yourself like that, and you can learn a lot of programming like that. Any other questions about this stuff though, before we go on break? We'll come back, we'll finish this up, and we'll take a look at the final project if there are none. Okay, so let's go take a break. Come back at 10:45. We React, and I don't know what we need right now, so we're just going to export default. Here's the thing. I do know what we need. That's a lie. How do I know what we need? Well, I know that this search component is going to be stateful because it has an input. And we need to control that input. So, like, fact, right? I'm not looking too far ahead. I can make this educated guess. This has an input. I need this component to be stateful because I like to control inputs with React. Okay, so we're going to class search extends React.component and render return. Oh, and we'll return this block of code that I pulled out. There we go. All right. So we don't really have to worry about this. We'll just take that out. Okay. This on-click button to close the search, sure, we'll leave that for now. Well, actually, this won't work anymore because it doesn't have the set states show search page anymore. We would have to fix that. Instead, what I'm going to do is we'll come back here and we'll fix that up in a bit. Okay. Actually, this is going to error right now in all honesty, but that's okay. That's fine. If I left that in, it would have an error. And then over here, we're going to have to render this search component. Okay. That doesn't exist. So yeah, do that thing where we create it, search from search. Okay, save that. And so we're rendering this search component right over here. It's not going to like that either. Okay, it's fine. But this, we can put a little bit of stuff in here. Okay. So search does not contain a default export. Oh yeah, we need to export defaults, right? On our search component. Export default search. And now when we click on this, we go to search. This doesn't work anymore because we removed it. It doesn't go back anywhere. Okay, so we actually need to refresh this page if we want to go back there. Okay, but we moved that search component into its own component. Awesome. Okay, it doesn't work, but that wasn't the goal. The next goal for me is to get rid of this stupid this.state show search page garbage and replace it with React Router. Okay, so we can get all this stuff. So we're going to do the React Router thing. I don't think it's already installed. I'm just going to take a look at package.json. Dependencies, no, it's not installed. So we're going to install it. Kill my server, npm install React Router. Well, I'll have a sip of coffee to celebrate. And really, while this is running, oh, it's done now. Okay, so we'll do an npm start again. Now, let's get this thing injected into here. So, stepwise, index, import, browser, router from React Router DOM, and I need to put it in curly braces. Otherwise, we'll have a problem on our hands. And we need to wrap app in browser router. There we go. Looks a little different than the one we had before, but that's okay. Okay. It's all one line. Okay. Nothing crazy. Okay, so now we're ready to use React Router in our application because I've wrapped browser router app in browser router. So good, don't need to deal with index anymore. Now I need to import switch, route, and link. I need to import all three of them because I have this thing down here, this button, I'm going to change that to a link. Okay. And so we're going to import those three pieces. Okay. Switch, because switch and route really go together. And link, because I need to make a link from React Router DOM. And we are going to, and it's going to actually wrap this same stuff here, this big ternary. Instead of this giant ternary, we're essentially going to say switch, okay? And switch will wrap all of this stuff anyways. All of it? No, it can actually sit right here, the closing switch. Okay, inside app, just inside app here. Okay, and we're going to give it two routes. Right, we're going to say route number one. Route number one is going to be path equals, I don't know, search. Seems reasonable. So when the URL is search, they are going to go to the search component. That makes sense. Okay. And so that will cover this guy. And then this whole thing will be wrapped in a route where the path matches slash. And when it does, they are going to go to the list books. It's going to display this whole chunk. Okay, that's essentially. They're not going to go anywhere. It's going to display this stuff. And we can get rid of this. Okay. So we have our two routes here. Okay, path search and path slash root, essentially. And we're going to update this open search button. We're going to change this from a button to an A tag. And instead of having an on click, right, we're just going to say it doesn't, not an A tag, it's a link. Okay, and it's going to go to, where is it going to? It's going to search, /search. Okay. So we use switch, route, and link. And we come back over here, and it's still running. It looks, yeah.
For our our routes, do we want them capitalized, lowercase, etc.? Is there a preferred way? Like for search, should it be capitalized? Should it be lowercase?
Lowercase. Lowercase, and yeah. So that now, okay. So the question is a very good question, and that actually is a different role in an organization. Why is it lowercase? The answer is this has to do with search engine optimization. What do search engines like? What kind of URLs do search engines like? They don't like capitals. They prefer dashes and underscores, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But that's a whole other role. Some developers know a little bit about search engine optimization. Search engine optimization, for those of you who don't know, is how do we make our website more findable and rank higher in Google and all these searches. And it takes a lot of things into account, including how the URLs are structured. So that's where the domain that this falls into is not so much of a JavaScript domain of like, what should your URLs look like in JavaScript? It's more of a, what do the search engines like? They like lowercase, they like dashes, they like underscores, they don't like spaces very much. Yeah, good question. So,
sir, for the second route, we're passing the state to bookshelf, so we have to render it.
Technically, no, I don't believe so. Yeah, from my experience, that was originally my experience, but that is incorrect. I did a test in class about that, and it worked out fine. Probably you should, but I don't know. I like the documentation. I think there are certain things that you might want to push into here that you might want, like history. There are certain things when you want to use render, but I'm not going to in this case until I'm proven wrong. I have a pretty good sense. I think I have a pretty good sense of what's going on here, and I think it's pretty safe. I don't know exactly how all this is built and run, but I think we're okay. One of the things I did notice, though, this is now an ugly link. So, okay, so I'm curious if I can say link type equals button. No, it doesn't like that. I was thinking, I wonder if it will let me create a different type instead of just an A tag or something like that. And like React router DOM link. How to use a button with link from React router DOM. I'm very curious. And is there anything? Link to, oh, and then you can wrap a
sir,
button.
if you change the CSS from button to
Oh yeah,
tag,
yeah, that works too. Yeah. I just I was wondering if there was a way to not have to go change the CSS. If I could choose to render a button instead of, but the answer is no, I can't. It doesn't look like it. So really the easiest way is to just go find the button over here and just say, okay. Yeah. Right. So I just went to the CSS. I looked for button because it's, I think, one of two buttons. I think there's two buttons, and we're going to change it to a tag instead. So all these styles will be applied to the a tag instead of the button, and we end up with this thing. Okay. All right. Let's see if this works. Click. Hey, there's our search. And that one doesn't work. Okay, so I can't go back, but /search works and my back button works. That's awesome. Okay, so let's go over to search and let's fix that button over here too. So this is going to be a link for clothes, I guess. L-I-N-K, where does it go? It goes to / link does not exist over here because I didn't import it. So I'm going to go grab it from here. Now I don't need all this stuff. Just going to grab this. And let's see if that works. And we're going to have the same problem. Oh, it looks like an arrow. Okay, cool. Awesome. That works now. React Router DOM, done.
Hey, John,
Yeah.
just your app.js render for a second. I'm getting an error.
App.js render.
Says you should not use switch outside a router, but I don't believe I have a switch outside of my router.
Did you do this?
Oh, I didn't browse router, and that's on index, eh? All right, do that.
Have a sip of coffee, celebrate the next stage. Okay, we finished the route. We're updating the state. Okay, now we're moving on to search. Okay, so now we're going to deal with this search page here. This is pretty much the last piece. Okay, so we have this input over here. Okay, let's control this component. So we're going to add some state to it to manage the state that exists on this component right now in my head is only to manage this component, is only to manage this input. That's it. Okay. At least that's all I can think of right now. Component. So we're going to say state equals. And we're going to say query, because it's the query. And we're going to start at an empty string. And we're going to put that as a value over here. Value equals this dot state dot query. And over here, doesn't like that. And oops, over here, we're going to say on. So we'll say query change, query update. For update, query. It's going to be one of these. We're going to take E and say this dot state query E dot target dot value. Standard stuff for controlling a component. And then on change. So we're doing an on change here. Okay. Not an on submit. Well, actually, we don't usually do on submits on these anyway. So we usually do on change. Okay. So on change, we're calling this dot update query. And we're going to set the state to e.target.value. Cool. So let's see how that works. So we'll pop open our inspector here.
Line 11, it must be set, this set state.
Oh yeah, you're right. I can't just make up new functions. This dot set state. Okay. Here we go. We're going to take a look at the components over here. Okay, we got a lot of new components now, but we're looking at these search components. We just want to check out to make sure that this state is working. Doop, 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 doop. And we see the state update. Perfect. Control component. Right? Awesome. Okay. Now, what do we do when this search happens? We go and get some books and we display them, right? This could technically be used and shown only on this page because no one else needs the books, right? The only page that needs these books to be displayed is this page. So let's go and do that here. It also has its own books state. You could technically move this state up to the parent to app.js, totally fine. Okay, it works. But I'm of the opinion of the state should be in the lowest parent necessary. Okay, so sorry, the lowest spot necessary, right? Technically, you can take all the state for the entire app and move it all the way up to the top if you wanted to, right? That would work. Probably not the best idea though. We're making pretty small applications, so it's pretty easy in this case. But imagine having 100 components and taking all the state for all the components and moving them all up to the parent and putting them in one. You probably wouldn't want to do that. You probably like to spread it around a little bit. So state is going to go here. And we're going to go get books. Where do we get books? And when do we get books? When and where do we fill up the state with some books to display?
From MPI or API?
From the API. Yeah. From this search query thing. So we're going to say a couple things. One, we need to include this API from here in search. Okay, then we can use it in this component. We want to go get books every time update query fires. So we're going to set this state and we're going to go get books. Okay, so let's do it. We're going to say books, API, search, query. We're going to pass in this dot state dot query. Okay. And well, actually, I would almost say you might want to pass in e.target.value just in case this hasn't happened yet, right? This is asynchronous. We don't know when it's going to happen. So let's use this instead for now. But this will happen eventually, right? So we'll go get this search as well, and then a big fat then. Then what happens? Then let's get the results, and we'll console log these results. Okay. Let's just see what happens when we type in something. Okay. We get an array 23 times, right? Why 3 times? Because this happened on change. And I changed it 3 times. 1 time for the L, 1 time for the I, 1 time for the N. So it fired 3 times. Some people say that that is too much, right? It should be, my program should wait for me to pause before it performs a search, right? Don't search while I'm typing, search when I stop typing. And that's not a submit, that's like a stop typing. That, you don't need to apply that here, but I just want to highlight that. That is called a debounce. When you're waiting for someone, when you perform an on change event, see, look at all the times I hit that API and I'm searching. And you probably, I didn't mean for that to happen right away, right? Really what I wanted to happen is I wanted them to search on pause. That concept is called debouncing. So you only want to perform it on pause. I won't tell you how to do it, but if ever you're curious about wanting to implement that, take a quick search for debounce. Okay. So good, we're logging. We've got some results here. Okay, and look at that, they're books. They're books. They're frickin' books. And they have everything except for a shelf. Interesting, interesting. Do we have anything that we can use to represent these books? Oh, so first off, we need to push these books into state, right? So let's just get these books and push them into state. This dot set state. And let's not call them results, let's call them books. So we can do this really easy thing of just books. Right. Here's the thing, I personally am not crazy about setting state twice in here. So I might look at consolidating this into one set state. I might do that. So set state only occurs once and only refreshes just once. But at the same time, React is also managing some of this for us, right? React, remember, set state is asynchronous. Why is it asynchronous? Because React is really good at grouping things together and saying, oh, you're calling set state on line 13 and you're calling set state on line 16. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to group those together for you at the right time. So don't worry about it. So I'm going to let React do its thing, okay? And we should end up with a bunch of books in state. And we do. Awesome. Now, imagine if we had a component that we can use to display these books. Oh shit, we do. We can this is the beauty of React. We have a book component, right? It doesn't care who renders it. What does it want? It wants a book, right? So we're going to give it a book, right? I think that's what it wants. It wants a book, props.book. Okay, so we're going to give it a book. So we're going to say, this dot state dot books dot map book. Boom. And take this guy over here, paste them like that. And we're going to say book. Okay. And book is not defined over here because we need to import it. Totally fine. Actually, bookshelf. Book. And there we go, LIN. Now, it's got a couple of problems. Actually, it does have a couple problems.
Because some book didn't have
Right. Some books don't.
Yeah, something.
Some books don't have thumbnails. Okay. So there's a couple ways we can deal with this, right? We can do a little check before. Okay. So, and that's part of the criteria. If the book does not have a thumbnail, don't display the book, right? That was a requirement. That's in that list. So there's 3 places we can decide to check for that. We can remove those books before we put them in state. That's not a bad idea. We can decide not to display those books down here. That's fine too. Or over here at book itself, we can check over here and decide not to return it or something like that. In my opinion, I think the best place to do that would be right here. So I have books. I'm going to say actually, books is equal to books.filter. Get rid of everything that doesn't have a thumbnail.
John?
Yep.
So in your demo, you actually displayed the books that without a picture. You can search for BI and I think the last, sorry, B.
Oh, or we can do that. That's fine too. What do the requirements say?
It doesn't say about anything about this.
It doesn't say anything?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine too, right? Like whatever. It doesn't matter to me. If you did, let's do this because this is what I did. Background image, none. So we'll just do that. So then it doesn't happen here. It happens over here. We're checking background image. So we're going to ask props.imagelinks.length, right? Because this is where the image would exist in this image links array. So we're going to do one of these. Props.imagelinks.length greater than 0, question mark. If it is greater than 0, output the URL, otherwise output none. String, output the URL, otherwise output none. And then dot length greater than 0. Now all my things have nothing. I feel like this is backwards.
Image links is not an array, so.
It's not? Oh, it's an object. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, so the better question is, what does it look like? What does image links look like? I should probably take a look at that. So we'll just go take a look at these components here and figure out what image links look like. Image links, what do they look like when they're not present is the big question. Is it just empty?
Undefined, maybe.
Undefined? Okay.
I use the undefined.
So image links equals undefined.
No,
sorry, not equal undefined. So when it doesn't equal undefined, use the image. Otherwise, it does equal undefined and join of undefined. Oh, some books don't have authors. So this is the real deal, right? This is the type of shit that we have to deal with. I can't make this stuff up, right? We have these expectations that everything's going to be perfect. Data is always going to be perfect because that's how we have been practicing things. Here's your data. Yes, all the stuff is there. Don't worry about it. But in the real world, it's not perfect. It's never perfect. It's always has these problems. So it's just all this little stuff. So we do it again. If props.book.authors.length, this time it is an array, greater than 0, we'll show the authors. Otherwise, we won't show anything. Empty string. Okay. Again, we can remove those. Length of undefined. Oh, authors does not even exist. Okay, so some books don't have authors, like this one. Some of them do. Some of them don't have pictures. VI. There you go. Some of them don't have pictures. Lots of them do. So that's okay. No problem. Right? It is what it is. And we have little things to deal with that. Now, maybe we could have filtered those out. Maybe we don't care about those books. Maybe we do. I don't know. But here's the awesome part about this. We're reusing this book component. This is the first time that we've experienced this in React, where we're using the same component in two different spots, right? So we actually get to see that reusability. The other piece here is though that these are not currently working, LINX, right? So I have one of these. I have this one. Actually, let's go look for this book, React. Okay. Oh, what's it called? It's called React.
Yeah, it's weird. I tried that too.
Okay.
Just don't know how to get that book. Just try
It's just that book, right?
Yeah.
How about satire? Okay, so we have this one. Okay, so we have this book. Okay, this book is in our shelf. Okay. Having said that, it should respond accordingly. I want to be able to select one of these books and move them into one of my shelves. And I try to, and it explodes. Why? Well, when I use the component in this manner so it's expecting this update bookshelf thing to fire, right? This update shelf. But I am not passing that through search. Right? When I render the book, I'm not passing update shelf. So what I need to do is I need to pass that, but it doesn't have it inside this component. So again, I need to pass that down. So I can go ahead and do that. Go back up to the parent, update bookshelf, and now I'm going to pass this down to the search component. Update bookshelf. Okay. And over here, search, I'm going to say book. This dot props dot update bookshelf. Now, when I search for something and I want to add it to my bookshelf, when I change it, so I added it to want to read. And here it is. That's interesting. Let's try another one. This one. Oh, okay. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, so it showed up eventually. I'm not too sure why. I don't know why this is happening. But I do know that I have a problem. And one of the problems is that these books over here, and this could be the source of the problem. These books on these bookshelves over here, they need to have keys. And this could be the problem, right? It's been yelling at me for a while. Hey, your books need keys. Do books have IDs? Anyone know? Yeah, book.id.
Yeah, we have ID.
Book.id. Okay. And this might be the source of the problem, in all honesty. Each child index line. Oh, it also wants us to have IDs for these bookshelves. The bookshelf ID, the key, could be the name because there's so few of them, right? We're not making like 1,000 bookshelves. So this could just be shelf 0, and that would work fine, or shelf 1. And then they'll stop yelling at us. Update bookshelf. Oops. Straight character. Okay. So let's see if that fixes anything. We'll put this one in. No, that's really interesting.
Maybe your update bookshelf, the function in the app is just update the exist one, and then you have to add in it.
Wait a minute. Yeah, I think it has something to do with that.
You just modified the exist one in books, but when you add a new one, you have to push in the books.
This should add it though. This doesn't only update it. This would also add it. That's correct. So this one is fine. The weird thing is it's assuming that the background image is empty. So I'm actually curious about the state of this book specifically. It has no key. It's in the right bookshelf. It has no title. It has no author. It has the right shelf. Oh, I'm not passing the book. Oh, I'm not passing the book? That's interesting.
Yeah, you just push a new one, just have a shelf.
Yeah. Okay, so what you're saying is update bookshelf is going to look for a book that already exists on the shelf.
Yeah.
But this one does not.
Yeah.
So it needs to
you have to get a new one and push it in the array, books array.
Right. I need to go get it. So that could be a question, right? I can actually just do this and say, go get it. If book index. If it doesn't find it, so if it can't find it, clone it. So if this exists, great. Otherwise, we need to add it. And this is a great reason why it's probably easier just to do the get after, right? Books.update, book.shelf, then books.get all. It is easier, but again, it's not the right way to do it, trust me.
John?
Yeah.
Sorry, can you check if finding that index returns true or false? I think it doesn't.
I think it returns minus.
undefined.
I think it returns -1. Oh, get rid of these controls here.
If find is greater or equal 0, but it's not found, it's -1.
Yeah, I feel like it's -1. Otherwise -1. Yeah. So actually, that was the next thing I was going to do is greater or equal to 0. So if it finds it, great, greater than. Otherwise, it didn't find it. It's -1, less than 0. And we're not cloning anymore. Actually, yeah, we are cloning. So now we're going to take the books, and we're simply going to do new book. And this is going to be our new state. Oops. So we're going to take all the previous books. Here we're going to take all the previous books. We are going to clone them Okay. Then we're going to take this new book and we're going to update the shelf of that as we put it on using shelf. So that will add this new book in with the new shelf, with the correct shelf. So we end up with the right book in the shelf. So let's try that. I don't know, what's money? It's got to be some, there's another thing that we'll have to deal with. Okay. Refresh. So we'll put dark money, red. Over here. And there we go. So if we go back to search and we look for dark, we'll deal with that next. That's the last piece. We're probably going to want to also manage these shelves properly, because if it's already in a shelf, it should be picking that up. Okay. And I think it was getting that from props.book.shelf. But the problem is these books that are coming in from search, over here, these books here, they don't have shelves. Search does not provide shelves. And so if we wanted this to properly be on the correct one, indicating that it already exists in our bookshelf, we would have to cross-reference these books with these books, which means we would have to pass all of those down as well into our search. So we'd have to say books from shelves. And we'd have to pass that down. So I'm going to restrain from doing that. I feel like I think we're at the point here where we're good. Okay. Last piece. I'm going to fix this. Okay. This .state.books.map is not a function. And that's because books is not receiving data here. So sometimes books is not an array of objects. When does that happen? Let's preserve this log. It is not an object when you type in a bunch of junk and it responds to you with, where is it? Let's refresh this page. Hey, where is it? Did I save this? Console log books? Yeah. Oh, wrong one. Shoot. Should be in search. Right. Sometimes books is not books. There we go. So we have books, 20 books. We keep going. It is not an array of 20 books. Instead, it's an error with items array is 0. That's something I now have to check for. So I essentially have to say, if books, and here we can check for error. If books.error, okay? If this error exists on this is really result, okay? We shouldn't call it book anymore. We should call it result. If result contains error, or sorry, better yet, if error equals undefined, then that means we got back books. Awesome. So we'll do this set state, books colon. Otherwise, we didn't get back books, we got an error. Now, this is where we should probably say no, put an error in state. Okay, and we'll say this dot set state error is result dot error. What does it say for the error? Empty query. No results found. Okay, so we'll put that in state over here. And then so instead of showing books, what we'll do is we'll do a little ternary, okay, this dot state dot error. If this dot state dot error does not equal empty string, show the books. Otherwise, show the error. Okay, so we get this. Running into some other errors here. Show the books, otherwise show the error. And sorry, we need to update this. Books equals empty. We need to empty those books out because those were previously there from previous searches. The other thing that we would need to do is on finding books, we should probably also empty out that error. Greater than 0. So if the length is greater than 0, equal 0, show the books, otherwise print the error. And this dot set state, no results found. And hopefully that works. No results found. Okay, so I put an error in this state. I did a check to see if I'm getting an error back from the API. I'm setting the error state when I do, and I'm emptying out the books, because if I don't empty out the books, it'll show both. Watch, it'll show both. Oh, it doesn't? Oh yeah, I guess there are no books to show. But shouldn't the books be there from before? I don't know. That works too, I guess. That's a little confusing, but okay, I'll go with that. And cannot read property, error of undefined. Oh yeah, now there's no books and no error. So that's a problem too. Okay.
Maybe it's more simple.
Yeah,
to
that
put the
line,
condition in render.
line
in
18,
render.
you can wrap that in another if.
Sorry?
Line 18. You can wrap that in I wrap that in another if result equals undefined.
If result equals undefined, but so on load it looks okay.
Yeah, but if you type something and then delete them, it gives you the error.
Yeah, let me just get to why. Okay, so delete on change. So on change is going to fire this last time, and it's going to perform another search. What is the console here? I'm interested in this. What is it on empty? Let's find out. Do. Ah, undefined. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you can actually just do this whole thing. Yeah, so you can wrap.
I feel like this is dumb. Like 2 if statements equals.
Or
this
result.
I tried this. It doesn't work.
Yeah, so I would deal with that too. I'm not going to deal with that right now. I think this is fine. Okay, so there's a couple of other little things that I would dig into. You're not going to have these problems in the final. Okay, there's not going to be these little tiny bugs of stuff like that. As much as I like this, and I totally do, I love all these little things. I think they're really important. I'm going to just neglect these. Okay, because these are not going to apply to your next one. You're not going to have to do stuff like this. Okay, but those are things that we would really have to do in real life. And if this were your final project, I would really expect those to be there. Okay. So like you might have lost it a little bit when I'm like going down these little holes of like, okay, got to check for this, got to check for that. But you know what? Like it's all just repetition. Okay, well, I gotta go check to see if length is there. I gotta go check to see if this is there. I gotta pass this through. I gotta pass that through. Nothing's new. None of this is new. It's just little things that you have to remember to do. And it adds complexity to it because it's not simple anymore. It's more complex, right? Questions. So we're really close to where we were, like to where I want to be. We don't have these icons and, like there's a couple little pieces not working here and there, but overall it's a pretty good. This is a 90% project, I would say. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I have one question. Is it okay in this situation? I just made it like that to put in rendering function if the state these books is different, is not equal, undefined, then a render book. Is that enough?
So you can not put error in here. And then you can just go ahead and jam whatever result you get back into this state. So what you would end up with instead of this, what Millie is asking, can we do this? Actually, sorry, it's this. Can we just do this? And then whatever the result is, it's going into books. And sometimes that might be an array. Sometimes that might be undefined. Sometimes that might be an object with an error in it, right? So it could be one of 3 things because we've seen that when we call this search, we can get back 3 different variants. We can get back undefined. We can get back an object with an error in it, or we can get back an array of books. And then we check that here. We say, what does this .state.books look like? Is it an array? Okay, cool. We're gonna do this. Is it an error? Or is it an object with an error in it? Okay, so we're gonna display that. Otherwise, we're just not gonna display anything. It's just gonna be empty, right? So that's, you can do that too.
Yeah, I do that. Just check the length. If there's the array, it's just the length greater than 0. If not, there's no result.
So I'll tell you though, I don't really like that approach because while it is like, I would say arguably easier, it's a little bit less explicit. So coming back to this in 2 months or 6 months, or being someone new who's being put on this project and seeing that, you would be like, oh, okay, so we get back books all the time, right? Putting this if statement in here is almost saying to whoever's reading it next, like, hey, we can get a variety of things back from this API, and we're going to deal with that here. If you move that somewhere else, then someone looking at this particular thing here might not know about it. So it's almost as though we're documenting it by putting this extra code right here and dealing with that right here. So if someone had to come back and update this block of code, they would be able to see that explicit stuff happening. And so I might say this is arguably a better place to put it, while putting it over here might be easier. So those are things that we have to consider when we're writing code. It's not always about being clever or just making it work. We also need to think about maintenance and support in the future. So just something to consider. In terms of this project, yeah, I wouldn't take off points. It'd be fine. You'd still get like 100% of those points for doing whatever it is you did. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So we ready? All right. Here we go. So we're going to close this. Close that, close that, close that. We're going to head on over here to LMS. Close this. And go to the view course. I'm sweating. My palms are sweating for you. Show topic. All right. We're doing the whole thing this time. Mitflix. This is what we're building. Let me go down. Where is the sample? Repository here. This is what we're building. Okay, so it doesn't seem like much. Looks like we've already done this. And we have done all of this already in separate small chunks. It's almost like I was preparing you for this, okay? But it's different. So we have here genres, movies, ordered by genre. We did that in the API course. Remember, that was assignment. We got all the genres, we got all the movies, and we said, if the genre has no movies, don't display the genre. That's the same thing that we're doing here. Except this time, we're doing it with React. Okay, so we have that piece. So this time, we're not going to the movie database. Okay, we're not going there. Instead, I've included a little database in your files. So actually, this time what you're going to do, I'm going to back out here. We'll come back over here. This time what you're going to do is you're going to go to this repository that I've created for you, just like the last one, and you're going to clone this repository. Okay, this has the starter files you need. In addition to npm start, you're also going to have to run npm db. And it is a database that runs on port 3001. You don't need to know that, but just in case you do. So you're going to have to run two things. You're going to have two terminal windows open, because you're going to have to go and run npm db. Then you're going to have to open a new terminal window. You're going to have to go back to the project. And you're going to have to run npm start. Okay, npm db is a little database that's going to run on your computer, and you're going to interact with that database in exactly the same way. It's called Movie API instead of Books API. And I've already imported it as star at the top for you. It's ready to go. Okay, what functions does it have? Well, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, it's got these functions. Get all. So this is get all the movies. Genres, get all the genres. add to a list, remove from the list. And when we're talking about adding to list and removing from list, guess what? Hey, it's that little check marky thing. It was like the heart thing from before, except now it's a check mark. And it's just like adding a book to a shelf or updating a shelf, right? Same thing. Okay, so get all the movies, get all the genres, do that thing that you did from before where we figure out which movie goes into which genre, display all the movies by genres. Okay, great. Display all them. Don't display the genres if they don't have movies. Order the genres alphabetically. That's a one-liner. Okay, order the genres alphabetically. Finally, couple finalies. We have the search bar up here. This search bar is not going to perform a search. The search bar is doing what it did in our sample app of contacts where we filter things. So if I wanted to filter a movie, I would say, and it filters all the movies by found 7 movies with the query JUS. And it's actually not 7 movies. It is 7 different movies. It's just that the movies repeat over and over and over. So that's a little bit of a miscommunication, but I don't know why. And I think it's looking in both the title and this
that's what I was just
overview. Yeah. And like all of that is very, like I've spent a lot of time well documenting what needs to be done and how things work. But you can always come back here and take a look. This is my solution. Again, as always, there might be little bugs or little problems that don't work. Like I bet you if I hit enter, yeah, enter on this empty string, doesn't work. But like the other thing is, sorry, this isn't on enter. This is on change. Okay, not on enter, on change. So it is probably in a form or something, and entering probably is not a good idea, but it's fine. In addition, right, one of the things you need to be aware of here is, let me refresh this page. Ant-Man is still checked, right? Writing to the database allows you to persist that data. So we need to do that same thing. We need to update the state and we need to write to the database in the same way. Movie API dot add movie to list and set state, both of those. Okay. Movie API, remove movie from list, toggle. Dook, 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 dook. So we've got a filter, we've got a list of movies. We have some genres. We have an API. Where's React Router? React Router is right up here. Okay, so we have 3 movies, at least 4 or 5 movies on my list. When I click on my list, URL changes and it only shows movies on my list. And it now says my list. If I click to get back, it's the title bar, Netflix, and that brings me back. That's it. So
Can I ask 2 questions? Sorry, John.
Yeah. Okay. So now next question is, any questions?
So I just tried on the demo. When you search for, let's say, Ant-Man, yeah, and when you, no, sorry, do you mind refresh the page? Okay, when we tap in A, so it has a filter on stuff, and also tap N, it also filters stuff. But when you type in the whole string Ant-Man and then delete one by one, it doesn't do the No, sorry, without the dash. Just have something that doesn't have a result. Yeah, and when you delete one by one, yeah, see, it doesn't.
There is. Don't worry about the filter not working on backspace.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, I
And
got it.
also, for when we are at my list, what do you want us to perform on the search field?
It only filters out these ones. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so the results, okay, so that's a bug. So the results are still showing 18 movies, but it actually should be the results of only these ones. So it should only say 2 movies, found 2 movies. It doesn't it will update this list. So if I type in A, they all have some letter A inside of them. But A-N-T, now there's only 2 of them that have that. So it should actually say found 2 movies with the query end. So that's a good catch. Yeah. But yeah, you should be filtering my list.
Okay.
Is that a requirement then that you want us to change different from your demo? You want us to have that reflect?
I'm fine with it. I'll do that for next year. I don't want to go change the demo, and I don't want anyone who's not paying attention right now to come back to me and say, well, your demo doesn't work this way. I spent a lot of time on this already. I spent a ton of time building this and preparing it and like trying to get it perfect for you. Not just for you, but just in general. I don't want to go change it anymore. So yeah, no, leave it as it is. However, make it work like the demo. If it's in the demo, so let me say demo trumps requirements. Demo trumps requirements. So that's fine. Any other questions? Okay. So this is due Friday at 5:30, I believe. Friday at 5:30 p.m. Yeah. So you're walking into the weekend done, and no homework. That's why I'm asking it for 5:30. I don't want you to stay up till midnight on Friday doing it. I want you to be done at 5:30 so you can stress until then and then crack that beer, bottle of wine, whatever it is, turn on your video games and just chill for the weekend. Okay, that's why I'm doing it at 5:30 on Friday.
John,
Yes.
sorry. And then we can build our project like a demo, right? But if we want, we can complete some or extra feature to the project, final project.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want after. Just submit to me only what I'm asking. Okay? Don't make any significant changes when you're submitting it to me. Just do the project. If you want to go further, that's fine, but stop, zip it up, submit it to me, and then take it further.
Okay, but I'm talking about specifically for the return key for search. So if we can update the page with backspace.
Listen to what I'm telling you. Finish it, then submit it. Then if you want to take it further, if you want to fix those things, fine. But I am not evaluating that. Don't send it to me. I don't want to see it. Okay? Because it's not me that's going to be grading all these things. And I'm going to have to tell Zach. And Zach's going to get all confused. Okay? Just submit what I'm asking for, please. Okay?
Okay.
Thanks.
And John, the movies that are populating here, all of them are already in that database. I mean, these are
they're already, they're in a file called db.json. It's just a JSON file. And it's just all the movies and all the genres in there. And then the database, all it does is read and write to this JSON file. That's all it is. It's just a little node package that I included.
Okay.
I think npm install will also install React Router. Yeah, React Router DOM. It will already install it. So you don't need to install it separately. You'll just need to download this and do an npm install. And it will install React Router DOM. If you go ahead and install React Router DOM again after, that's fine. It's not going to break anything. But okay, so all the requirements are here. It should be fairly straightforward. Here are some tips. One, it's a cumulative project of everything we've done in 5 months together. It is composed of many small problems. There are a lot of different things. You're going to need to use filter. You're going to need to use sort. You're going to need to use like all the stuff. Potentially anything in the last 5 months that we've done is fair game. Break down the problem into small pieces. Here is an example of how you can look at solving them in a thoughtful order. Maybe not the order, maybe not your order, but a thoughtful order. Retrieve the movies, put them in state, display the movies, add them to the list, remove them from the list, add them to the list, remove them from the list, adding React Router, filtering movies, special filter. What is the last thing that I do? Breaking down the list of movies into genres. That is the last thing that I do. Okay. Oh, and this is a little bit busted. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Not what I was expecting. Doesn't render as well on here. So here are some other tips. We've actually done this all before. None of this is new, but it's a matter of stuff that we've learned from previous experiences and tweaking it a little bit and reapplying it. Okay. And this is a very important skill, right? This is, we are not robots that just repeat things. We are thoughtful. We are problem solvers. Okay. That is what we are paid for. We are problem solvers. Please ask questions if you're uncertain about anything or something is unclear to you. I'll do my best to help you remove roadblocks, but my help is going to be limited. This is your chance to show me. This is your final exam. Okay, but I will try. If you're like, I can't get this to install and I can't do anything now, I'll help you. Or like, I don't understand what I need to do here. I'll explain it to you. Okay, start early. Walk away, go grab lunch and start. Take lots of breaks, celebrate small wins, drink your coffee, do whatever it is, tap yourself on the back, go for a walk, and just have fun. Okay, remember, this is what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. Find the fun in it. I mean, you're not going to be doing this project for the rest of your life. That would suck. But you know, you're going to be programming for a long time, I hope, and I hope you love it. So you got to find what you love about it and just remind yourself of that. And when you start hating yourself and start hating sitting at your computer, get up and go for a walk. Go and hug someone, pet a cat. Okay, I don't know what it is that you do, but go get away and rekindle your love. Any final concerns?
No concerns. I thought HF, have fun, was standing for Hellfire. So good luck, Hellfire. I'm like, what?
Good luck, Hellfire. Good luck, have fun. Okay, enjoy it. So there you go. This is your last programming project with me and your last programming project for weeks. So work your ass off, stress out a little bit. It'll all be over in 2 days. And the next couple weeks, we'll just chill, relax, write some resumes, do some presentations about what we learned, and it'll be great. Okay? So I will be online. So tomorrow's Thursday, I'll be online. I'm gonna hold regular class. Okay? Help you out, answer any questions. Same thing on Friday, but me and Zach are around. But it's up to you to do this stuff. And again, don't worry about not getting it done 100%. Do as much as you can, go as far as you can, and do what you can do. Okay? I think that a lot of you will have no problem though. Okay. All right. Let's go take some lunch and then down to work. I will see you tomorrow morning at 8:45, unless you bug me earlier. Then I'll talk to you then. See ya. Bye.